and non-binary individuals. A county committee has endorsed a plan that would have the entire county board officially oppose any potential state laws aimed at restricting gender-affirming care through bans, fines, or penalties. The resolution doesn't distinguish between gender-affirming care for adults or children, and it broadly opposes limitations on gender-affirming surgeries. The Great Lake is a little choppy today. A beach hazard statement is in effect until tonight for Lake Michigan beaches in Milwaukee, Racine, and Kenosha counties. The advisory warns of life-threatening waves from 3 to 5 feet and dangerous currents that could pose risks for any swimmers due to the combination of high waves and onshore winds. With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Red Delicious, Honeycrisp, Granny Smith. If you have a favorite apple, now is the time to pick it straight from the source. Did you know Wisconsin has more than 300 apple orchards? Travel Wisconsin recently naming its favorites, including the Oneida National Apple Orchard outside Green Bay, Ferguson's Orchards in Eau Claire, and Apple Holler south of Racine. Many provide tons of family fun in the fall, too. Tire swings, lawn bowling, hay rides, and more. Apple experts suggest if you want to pick yours fresh, do it before the end of October. For Civic Media, I'm Terry.
Don't let biased algorithms or degree screens or exclusive professional networks or stereotypes, don't let anything keep you from discovering the half of the workforce who are stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time to tear the paper ceiling and see the stars beyond it. Find out how you can make stars part of your talent strategy at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Missed your favorite show live on air? It's easy to find what you enjoy wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts.
Unrelentlessly positive.
Innovative.
Innovative?
Innovative. Whatever.
It indicates.
Indicative?
Hey, can we focus?
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada. Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin! And hello, Jane Matnair.
Hello, my friend.
I was so looking forward to seeing you in person today and giving you a big hug because I've missed you so much.
Oh, thank you. I missed you.
And then lo and behold, last night you shot me a text saying, well, we're ripping up the studio, so you probably should do the show from home. So I have not gotten to embrace. You look very tan, though. I can see you on the live stream, and you look like you got some color.
We did. We got some sun. It was not terribly warm, which made me happy, actually.
Okay.
It wasn't 90, it was like mid 70s and partly cloudy, but in that kind of climate, you still, we did a lot of walking. We were outside all the time. So I wore 50 SPF. Good. Just in case anybody's wondering. So don't yell at me.
Do you have a big floppy hat that you wear as well?
I did not take a big floppy hat. I could have bought many of them.
Many.
Yeah, many.
Well, I have to say, I'm so happy that you had a vacation. You were missed terribly. Greg did a great job.
That's what I've heard. I knew he would.
But that doesn't mean that I didn't miss you a lot. And it was so funny because there's certain topics that I feel like I had to save until you got back, including, did you know, because I know how big of a fan you are of The Bachelor, The Golden Bachelor is starting, and they did indeed, the lowest age of any of the women is 60.
Oh.
So it's higher than you thought it was going to be. You said it was going to be like 45-year-olds. I was like, I'm going to wait until she's back to broach this topic.
Okay, I still think that They are not going to grab their average 60-year-old woman.
Well,
I mean,
he's
you've
not the
seen them.
average 60-year-old,
Well,
70-year-old man. Have you seen him?
yes, and that's the whole point. They're still going to be the most beautiful of the 60-year-old people.
It's television.
And I know.
But speaking of which, can I tease you a little bit?
Sure.
So I listened. I obviously was gone yesterday. Thank you, Joe Zepecki, for covering. But I got to listen to the whole show. He did a great job. You did a
Yeah, he
great
did.
job. And you guys also started catching up with you and your trip. And while you were out, one of the things Greg and I joked about was how much this trip might reinvent you, and you may come back not cynical. And so the fact that you were like, you gave about 2 seconds to how good the trip was, and then you just immediately started complaining about the airplane. I was like, nope, she's still the same person.
Pretty much. That's really funny. Although I will say, Kristen, that the airplane stuff aside, every time I travel, I feel better about humans. Which
Interesting. Say more about that.
Yeah, which you wouldn't think would necessarily happen, but every time we travel, I am just reminded of how much we are similar. We want the same things. We want a place to live. We like good food. We like to laugh. And so that always makes me feel better, because even with some of the staff that worked at our resort, and I told Louisa the night before we left, and I got all emotional, and I said, we would be friends. I know we would be friends, because it's just those kinds of connections. And I think that's what is so important about traveling.
I totally agree. I think it's the little things like we talk about of the importance of not replacing every checkout with a computer, because of the small talk you can make with your community and your neighbors when you're picking up groceries, or all the little things of when you actually put yourself out there to have in-person conversations. And certainly it's underlined when you're traveling, because it's like you're in a new place, you're experiencing new things, it's a different culture, and yet it's all the same.
Yeah.
And so I totally agree with you on that. And so happy that you're happy to be home.
I am. It's always good to be home and sleep in your own bed. And I'm very particular about my pillow. So it's always easier I think to sleep in your own bed.
All right. Well, I can't wait to embrace you. Hopefully the studio will be on tomorrow, so I'll be back in studio tomorrow. But we have a very fun, packed show today. It's Tuesday, so Dan Schaefer is going to be here at the bottom of the 10 o'clock hour. He'll be here at 10:30, and we're going to talk impeachment, because I feel like we're going to talk about this every single day because it's that important. But also any updates on Megan Wolf and whether or not, I feel like these are two similar stories as far as the complexity of, can they do that? Because it seems like they can't, and yet
they do.
And yet they do. Yeah. So we'll talk to Dan at 10:30, and then in the next hour, this weekend, the Willie Street Fair is this weekend. It's a big deal.
It's a really big deal.
It's Madison's longest running neighborhood gathering. And so Colleen Hayes is going to be here to talk about that. We're also going to be talking to Sandy Peters, who is a Waukesha woman who is organizing a walk run for this weekend that is going to be raising funds for Dig Deep, which is about providing water and like filling the water gap to places where they don't have access to clean drinkable water, which this
is in America.
Oh yeah.
This is happening in America. People don't have access to clean drinkable water.
Well, and I think it's such a poignant timing that they're doing this fundraiser in Waukesha this weekend, because I think it's within the last 5 days the Waukesha pipeline turned on. And about 2 weeks ago, last week of August, we had Dan Dukniak on, who we talked about this project and how long it's been running and stuff. And the truth of the matter is, the city of Waukesha residents, the cost of their water is going to go up. But he kind of ended it. It was like the access, being able to afford and have access to clean water, and how many millions of people don't even have that. And so I feel like it's maybe a good reminder for the community that there's a lot of people who don't have enough water, as we let our shower run until it heats up, and all of the things that we take for granted when it comes to to clean drinkable water. But where I want to start is the wild. Do you feel guilty? This is my question. Do you feel guilty about what happened to Aaron Rodgers last night? And I'm not laughing. I'm laughing out of it's so uncomfortable because I think we talked about it a month or so ago. We're like, should we stop talking about Aaron Rodgers? And people called in about their feelings about him. And I think most Packers fans have very mixed feelings about Aaron Rodgers and him leaving the Packers in the way that he did, him joining the Jets, him taking a pay cut, the Hard Knocks thing, even his interview with John McEnroe that kicked off the game last night. You know, he kind of referenced being a massive fish in a tiny little goldfish bowl as the difference of living in Green Bay. And he sounded, because he's one of the best team ever did.
We're losing you a little bit there. You're a little sticky.
Better now?
Better now.
Okay. And so even up until literally the moment of his first snap, there was feelings of like, oh God, you're still sounding so arrogant. And so people have feelings. And yet I don't think anyone had the feeling of, oh, I hope you get potentially a career ending, or if not a season ending, if not a career ending injury on your fourth snap of the season. So my question is, are you feeling any Catholic guilt this morning about Aaron Rodgers? 844-967-2789, because I certainly woke up to one text from one specific person, I think, feeling a little guilty about that, because they had hoped that he didn't have a bad season, that he wouldn't have a good season, but maybe that, but not this. And so
I would like to think that most people, even if they don't like Aaron Rodgers and how bad the breakup was, that, as you said, nobody would wish a career-ending injury on him.
No, and I don't think they would, but it's I don't know if the word is irony. I don't know, like, it's to have so much hype. Like, I don't know, this feels unprecedented as far as, you know, having the Hard Knocks season start with be focused on the Jets. There's so much hype around Aaron Rodgers being Super Bowl contenders, everything that was going to happen with him and the Jets this year, just the Jets in general putting all of their eggs in this basket for Aaron Rodgers. And for him to literally have one attempt and basically, it was one attempt. It was four snaps, one throw, and he goes down. And it's like, you can't, that's a movie. That's like if you wrote that in a movie, they said that's too on the nose. We can't do that.
Yeah. That would never happen in life, right?
And so my question is, do you feel guilty about Aaron Rodgers? 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-party on the Facebook live stream, which you are always welcome to join and watch us, along with listen to us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, which you can find at As Goes Wisconsin. Joe McClure says, none of the vaccinated quarterbacks tore their Achilles this past weekend. Checkmate, anti-vaxxers.
Ooh, Joe, bring it
and
in.
Joe,
bring
and
it
I know
on Tuesday.
And I know Joe's not even a Packers fan. He's a Lions fan. So he's saying that with an extra oomph. Gosh. But I certainly feel bad. I don't think I didn't want him to win the Super Bowl. I was with my family over the weekend, and my brother actually was like, I hope they win the Super Bowl. I was like, that's a weird thing to say. His reasoning was, I think it's kind of the fact that the Jets have always been bad, and maybe they've earned this one, and he's earned this one.
Well, from what I've read, the Jets' defensive line was always in question, and
offensive line, their offensive line is
the O line, and that's what made this sack possible.
Well, it's that, but then we'll also, good Aaron Rodgers' very good friend, Bakhtiari, tweeted last night So we'll read that tweet when we get back on what he has to blame for this, because he's blaming the NFL. So we will talk about that. We'll take your calls if you're feeling guilty about Aaron Rodgers this morning. And we'll also give you an update on Jack's American Pub and how that turned out for the bar. 844-967-2789. We'll be back after the break.
The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is here and ready to help anyone experiencing a suicidal, mental health, or substance use crisis. Call, text, or chat 988 to get connected to a trained Lifeline counselor. 988, here to support you. Sponsored by Wisconsin DHS.
Uh-oh, did a rock hit your windshield from that semi? Don't worry, Autoglass Now offers fast, reliable, and convenient service. For a limited time only, Autoglass Now is offering 50% off windshield replacement. Call your local Autoglass Now today for full details.
RPG came through the belly of the aircraft. We don't talk about the female combat wounded. These are our daughters and our sisters and our mothers. Wounded Warrior Project came into my life and taught me how to stand back up and get back in the fight. The truth is, I think we all have this strength inside of us, but until you're tested, you just don't know it's there.
See how Wounded Warrior Project empowers women veterans like Beth by visiting woundedwarriorproject.org/empowerwomenvets.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
All of these things consistently come down to this willingness of people to give up their agency, and the willingness of Donald Trump and those who support him to leverage and abuse people's trust in them to further their own personal power and enrichment.
The Maggie Dawn Show, weeknights at 6 p.m. on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times this afternoon, with daytime highs approaching 68. Winds out of the north, 8 to 15 miles an hour. Chance for scattered rain showers tonight. Lows level off around 49. Cloudy skies expected. Chance for scattered rain showers again tomorrow. Highs level off around 65. A blend of clouds and sun. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 57.
I am Kristen Bry. Jay Metnair is back. The tag team duo is back on the air together. Just not in the studio together today, but that's okay. I'm just sad because after today, we only have 8 more shows together. And that's if the baby doesn't come early. So
she's not coming early.
She's not coming early. She can't come early because Mike's still recovering from his back surgery. So
exactly.
we've already decided, baby, you got to stay put for as long as possible.
Just sit tight for, 2 weeks yet. It'll all be good.
Well, we're talking about, I think, one of the most unbelievable stories. I don't know what else we could have started today with, but talking about Aaron Rodgers and being out after 4 snaps. And if you, as a Packers fan who maybe wish that he didn't have a great season, feel guilt at all? 844-967-2789, because at the commercial break, I checked, and it sounds like 18 minutes ago, they did announce that, in fact, his Achilles is torn, and the MRI has confirmed it, and he is out for the season after 4 snaps.
Wow. Nobody could have predicted this or seen this coming. And not that it requires an especially violent hit, but the one that he took didn't look that terrible.
I think everyone saw the hit. They were like, what even happened? And so this is the thing that I didn't realize. I think I've heard here and there that this is a point of contention for players in the NFL, but it comes down to AstroTurf or artificial turf. So David Bakhtiari tweeted this last night, and obviously those two are very good friends, even though Bakhtiari is still a Packer. But he's been dealing with an injury for the 2 years plus,
Right.
So he tweeted out last night, congrats at NFL. How many more players have to get hurt on artificial turf? You care more about soccer players than us. You plan to remove all artificial turf for the World Cup coming up, so clearly it's feasible. I'm sick of this. Do better. So he makes it sound like, because the hit looked like a normal hit.
It did.
But that the way they slip or whatever it is specifically about artificial turf that leads to torn Achilles, torn ACLs, and some of the injuries that we've seen sideline these guys for entire seasons. And I don't know enough about the science of that to know if that is one of the reasons why this is changing more. But it also is, that's an interesting point that he makes, that if they're actually they're willing to change it out to put real grass in for the World Cup and for those games, but then for the NFL, they wouldn't, especially when you think about the investment that the NFL and these teams have in their players and all the other rules that they change to protect players and their longevity, because they're worth them a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. You can call and or text, do you feel guilty about Aaron Rodgers? Texter from Waukesha, I wanted him to go to Dallas and beat them next week.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
From the 715, Rodgers lasted 1 minute and 36 seconds. Now we know why Danica, Olivia, and Shailene were so disappointed. Youch.
That is a zinger.
That's
That is a zinger for
that
a
is a
Tuesday
zinger.
morning. Well, I got a text from the first thing I got this morning at 6:30 a.m. from my mother. Shout out Deb Bry. Because we were all, they were home and everyone watched the game last night, was good morning. Not a good morning for Aaron Rodgers. I have to say, I hoped he would not do well at NYC, but certainly never wanted something like this to happen. And that was kind of where I started. I was like, I was not necessarily rooting for him, but not this.
Not this, for sure.
And especially because, this was actually the most compassionate response I've seen so far is from Maggie Loney, who came on the show last year. I don't remember. I think she was the only Packer pundit, the only woman Packer pundit we had on last year. So she is, she's the podcaster for Pack a Day podcast and She's Head TV, and she's great. But she tweeted this out, which I think is for sure the most compassionate. She said, Aaron Rodgers is the reason so many football fans fell in love with the sport. First ballot Hall of Famer, four-time MVP. He's one of the best to ever do it and a huge reason I have so many incredible football memories. I truly hope that wasn't the last time I see him play football. And then she followed up with, I'm just sad, man. And I think that was kind of the similar feeling of his the end of the last season, right? We're like, whoa, was this the last time we saw him as a Packer? And that feeling of could this be the last time we saw him play? Was that play really?
Well, and I think people, if you didn't want him to do well, at least you wanted to see him lose fairly.
Lose fairly, yes. And certainly, and we're going to get to this because we don't have time to touch on it now, but certainly Jack's American Pub, which when you were out of town for all the hubbub around this, but Jack's American Pub on Brady Street in Milwaukee had that was the first night of their big special, their big promo that was a little petty, but it was about Aaron Rodgers and it was about him playing and then playing your bar tab. And that I think is a super interesting story, but we're going to have to table it because when we come back, Dan Schaefer is going to be here and we're going to recombobulate on some of the top issues happening in Madison, happening in Milwaukee, happening across Wisconsin. But we'll start the 11 o'clock hour with the disappointed fans who really thought they were going to get their bar tab paid for last night. But because of, how the game ended up going last night, they did not. But there was national press there covering what was going to happen. And so that is another interesting story. But if you have more feelings on whether or not you're feeling guilty this morning about Aaron Rodgers getting hurt, or if you also feel like how the 715 texter felt, that there's some more zingers in there for you, we would love to hear from you. 844-967-2789. And also, if you have any questions for Dan Schaefer, coming up, 844-96-PARTY. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back after this. How are you?
Gotta be cleaned up down there.
Your home for the Devil's Advocates. Weekday afternoons from 4 until 6 on The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM, WAUK.
CBS News Brief. Authorities in Pennsylvania are warning that an escaped murderer is now armed after stealing a gun from a home last night in Chester County. Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens
grabbed a .22 rifle that was leaning in the corner of the garage. The homeowner drew a pistol and fired at Cavalcante as he fled with the rifle.
On Capitol Hill, CBS's Linda Kenyon tells us how Speaker McCarthy intends to back an impeachment inquiry against President Biden.
The Speaker is expected to make that announcement Thursday morning in a closed-door meeting with House Republicans. Senate Republicans have said they believe their House colleagues lack the necessary evidence.
Arms talks are expected soon between North Korea's leader and Russian President Putin. Kim Jong-un arrived there early this morning.
It seems to me a certain degree of desperation on his part that he would pursue North Korea. North Koreans are going to sell him, I'm sure, the oldest ammunition they've got.
Military consultant Jeff McCausland. CBS News Brief. I'm Stacey Lynn.
The Civic Media Network of radio stations across Wisconsin. We are your hometown radio, refreshed.
With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. The Big Lake is wavy today. A beach hazard statement runs through tonight for Lake Michigan beaches in Milwaukee, Racine, and Kenosha counties. The statement warns of life-threatening waves of 3 to 5 feet and dangerous currents. That'll lead to perilous swimming conditions due to high waves and onshore winds. Milwaukee County leaders are discussing the adoption of a timeline for releasing body camera footage in cases where people are injured or killed by police. Under the proposed timeline, video would be provided to family members within 48 hours of a critical incident and made public within 15 days. Advocates argue that transparency helps families find closure sooner. The resolution has been postponed, as sheriff's deputies express concerns that the early video release could hinder investigations. With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles.
The Devil's Advocates radio show.
100 degrees. Ramaswamy literally said global climate change, human affected climate change is a hoax.
Ron DeSantis effectively pivoted on the debate stage, said, I'm not going to answer your damn question because it will expose us as climate change denialists, which puts them in a minority, certainly with younger voters. Young people care about the future of this world, Don.
The Devil's Advocates radio show. Weekday afternoons from 4 until 6 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Fritos, Cheetos, Doritos. We should expect that stuff to be safe. Why does it make sense that corporations can poison the American people and we don't even know about it? Politically, there is a group who chooses to make sure that there are not enough dollars put into the Food and Drug Administration to check on these types of things.
The Earl Ingram Show, weekday mornings 8 to 10 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app. Direct from the Dairy State. It's Sharp Cheddar Weekends, a 3-hour block of Wisconsin-produced radio, Saturdays and Sundays from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m., featuring Raised in Wisco with Joe Clayfish and Danielle Fairman, The Cripescast with Charlie Behrens, and Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, Gilbert Brown. You can enjoy it by the slice or enjoy the whole darn thing. Sharp Cheddar Weekends is radio so fresh, it squeaks. Listen in on the Civic Media Station or on the app. Pursuing the truth wherever it may lead. The Todd Alba Show, weekday afternoons from 1 till 3. Join the conversation. Get involved.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristen Bry. J. Matt Nair is back on the board. And Dan Schaefer, it's Tuesday at 10:30, so we are recombobulating with the one and only. How are you, friend?
We are recombobulating. What a day. What a day in Wisconsin to be discombobulated.
What makes you say that? What is your top things in your head right now that you're like, geez?
Well, obviously, you were talking about it before the break. The Aaron Rodgers turn of events. It's just unbelievable what happened. And just, first series after all the hype, running out with the American flag with the 9/11 tribute and all that. And season's over 4 plays into it. It's just unbelievable. I've had my issues with Rodgers over the years, but I can't help but feel for the guy and feel for the whole situation. It's just awful. It's just awful.
It really is. I think that's why I was kind of like, do you feel guilty? Because I think there were so many jokes and stuff kind of leading up to it I hope you don't win this year, but not this. And so that story is crazy. Obviously, we have our own political shenanigans happening in our state. I think I checked Twitter during the break, and McCarthy's talking about impeaching Biden. Like, there's never a lack of things to talk about, is there, Dan?
No, never a lack of things to talk about. Always a need to recombobulate, that's for sure.
All right, so I guess let's start. I think this is kind of just going until this dies. Hope and knock on wood that it does die. I feel like we're going to touch on this probably almost every day on the show. I know most other shows are talking about it just because it is that undemocratic, let's say, but is the ongoing will they or won't they with impeaching Justice Janet Protasiewicz before she has heard a single case. And you recently wrote about this basically from the angle of, I think this was the title. It's outrageous and undemocratic. It's also completely predictable. And so let's talk a little bit more about why you say we should have all just seen this coming.
Yeah, for one, Dan Knodl's now state senator more or less campaigned on this he was on the same ballot in the April election that Protasiewicz was. But in addition to that, you look back to what Robin Vos and Wisconsin Republicans have been doing for the last, 5 years at least, is that they have gone out of their way to undermine and invalidate and overturn election results over the years. And that has included, after the 2018 election where Tony Evers beat Scott Walker, moving to strip powers from the governor's office, after the 2020 election, after Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump, immediately launching investigations into the validity of everything, the Gableman mess, all of that. So this is really, about what we've come to expect from Robin Vos and legislative Republicans who don't seem to be able to have a good answer, or they're not listening to the will of the people, the voices of the people that are made heard through these votes. Protasiewicz obviously won with a landslide victory in April, and I think people wanted to see change. And Robin Vos is, of all issues for him to cling to power in any way that he can, it is obviously going to be through the maps. These maps give him the power to basically run the state legislature without having to, kind of protect key seats and things like that. They have their ridiculous gerrymandered majorities, and that gives them the option to do things like launch ridiculous impeachment investigations into Janet Protasiewicz. And I think this is, just such a ridiculous move. It's undemocratic, it's outrageous, but like I said, it's nothing that it is completely predictable. It's completely in line with everything that we've been seeing from these Wisconsin Republicans over the years, especially under the leadership of Robin Vos.
And so, but there's potential that the campaign that the Wisconsin Democrats have launched, along with, I think there's plenty of just Democratic groups that are Democratic with a small d, who are like full court press on this because it is that much of a constitutional crisis. And so if you have not, I'm not sure we've talked about the website on this show yet, but defendjustice.com, you can go there and you can see literally everyone who everyone in the Assembly, everyone in the state Senate, and where they stand right now, at least what they've said publicly on impeaching or not impeaching. You can look up your address, so you can easily find who your reps are. So, and then you can easily call them and let them know how you feel about which way they would vote on this topic. So they make it super easy for you. But it sounds like there are rumblings that this amount of pressure could be working, and that while Robin Vos certainly, like we said, these gerrymandered maps are what keeps Robin Vos as our shadow governor, right? As Politico called him, what was that, 2 years ago?
Mhm.
Because it's not only that he is in a safe seat, he has that many people who are in a safe seat who he knows they have to be more loyal to him and the party than their constituents, so he can get them to do whatever he wants. And so this is this is very personal, it seems like, for Robin Vos, and why he specifically is so against giving up any of his power.
Yeah, and I've written on a number of occasions that these gerrymandered maps are Robin Vos's skeleton key to holding on to power in the state of Wisconsin, no matter how many statewide elections that Republicans lose. They've lost Republicans and Republican-backed candidates have lost 14 of the last 17 statewide elections, but Republicans still enjoy huge majorities in the state legislature, and they have continued to consolidate power within the state legislature during Robin Vos's tenure. So it's just an outsized power and influence in that body, and it is a way for no one really to ever, it's easier for Republicans to get a supermajority than it is for Democrats to get a simple majority here in this 50-50 swing state. So, it is really ridiculous. And I think, just goes to show how important these maps are to Robin Vos, and that he will go to any length possible to protect them.
Dan, I had a question, and we had Representative Evan Goyke on yesterday when Joe Zepecki was here. Because Justice Janet's victory was so large and so overwhelming, is it a fair assumption that a fair amount of Republicans voted for her? And therefore, I would think this would also really tick them off.
Yeah, I think you had a lot of, obviously Democrats, but Dem-leaning independents, that those, like you said, people on the right who might want change in the state of Wisconsin, want to see some checks and balances come to Robin Vos in the Wisconsin State Legislature. And I think it is really important, like you mentioned, Kristen, the Defend Justice effort, highlighting not just what Vos is saying, because obviously you're going to interview the Assembly Speaker and see what he has to say, but this is something that every member of the Wisconsin State Legislature would have to vote on. And I think it is really important to hold every last member accountable. And so I think you're seeing a little bit from, there was a statement from State Representative Scott Johnson, who represents, I believe, an area in Jefferson County, said last week that he would not be, he's a Republican, and he said he's not supporting the impeachment effort. He said something along the lines of, I didn't vote for Janet Protasiewicz, but she won. That's the results of the election, and we have to move on. And I wonder if we're going to see more of that. And I think particularly in the state Senate, where they need every last vote to be able to impeach, you get one Republican state senator who goes on the record to say, I'm not on board with this, that could really derail the effort as it is. And I think, Defend Justice eyed Appleton area State Senator Rachel Cabral Guevara as a potential swing vote here, as somebody who's leaning against impeachment. I wonder if we're going to see a few more of those, especially from people like her who are in some swingier districts, like in the Fox Valley or Western Wisconsin or suburban Milwaukee, where you have, some of those more crossover votes that are coming through. And I think, this is going to be something that people remember. This is going to be, I write a preview of all 100 and however many races are on the ballot in the Wisconsin State Legislature. I think this issue is going to be something that people remember when it comes to the state legislature. It's going to be something that people are going to know, want to know where their legislators stand on this as well.
I also just saw at the very top, Amy Bensfield from Assembly District 27th is leaning against removal as well. And so she's also a Republican. And so I think put the pressure on. Like if you voted and you don't want your vote erased, let your representative know that you are watching this. And I do think that if there's enough pressure and there's enough Republicans who are like, I can't peg my legacy to this. And it's just the fact that Robin Voss would peg his legacy to this. That is just, what is the calculus there as far as...
It's just power consolidation at all costs. That is just the guiding principle of Robin Voss, that consolidate power at all costs, and a Democrat is not allowed to govern, even if they win. You know, Democrats should not be allowed to govern in Wisconsin. That's probably Robin Voss. He has like maybe a poster of that above his desk.
Put that on his
Democrats
tombstone.
Not allowed to govern. Yeah.
And what kind of retribution can the popcorn king dish out if some assembly members do decide not to vote for impeachment?
I mean, he could remove people off of committees or things like that. But I think, didn't see any retaliation to Scott Johnson when he put that very public statement out last week. So I think that was pretty interesting. And I think the pressure is going to be on Voss with this one, to see where things stand. And I think he's playing with fire a little bit too, because I think this could backfire. If the redistricting case ultimately goes forward in the way that the litigants want it to, that means every member of the Wisconsin State Assembly and every member of the Wisconsin State Senate will be on the ballot next fall in 2024 if they do get new maps in time. So I think, Robin Voss is going to try anything he can, anything that is legally possible for him to do. They'll gin up any kind of reason that will be used to do this unprecedented action of trying to impeach a Wisconsin Supreme Court judge. So they will do anything they possibly can to keep these maps.
Well, and it still seems murky to me of like the details of how this will proceed. Because I know at one point, if she resigns now and they appoint someone this year, then that would trigger a new election in 2024. But if she waits until next year, then that person gets to do the entire term. There also yesterday was a lawsuit that's asking the state Supreme Court to block Republican lawmakers from seeking to impeach. So like, how much have you been able to keep up on the details of like, can they do this? Is there any mechanism to stop them from doing this legally?
Yeah, there's so many moving parts here, and I'm trying to do my best to learn about it. But
same.
You're right. If she resigns before December 1st, it's a different scenario than if she were to resign or be removed after December 1st. That could kick in an election, either a do-over election basically for next spring, or would have to open up for the next available spring election slot when there's also not already a Wisconsin Supreme Court justice that'll be on the ballot. That I believe is not until 2031. And then there's all these different mechanisms of legal behind the scenes stuff that I went to school for political science, but I didn't go to law school, so I don't know all of these different
Not
things.
a Wisconsin constitutional lawyer over here.
But I do think that there is, this is a very, very unprecedented action, and so I do think that like the suit trying to block the impeachment, we're going to see that as well. And I think we're seeing some national interest start to turn to this case. I believe Eric Holder wrote a piece about it that was published today. So I mean, this is the pressure is going to be really dialed up on Robin Voss and Wisconsin Republicans on an issue that I just don't get the sense that, even some of the Never Trump Republican types like Jennifer Rubin or Charlie Sykes or something like that, they've all written columns already opposition to this effort. So it's not like, it's just like the people like the folks from Wisconsin Institute Law and Liberty and wherever else that are just doing all these ridiculous gymnastics to try and support this effort, even though they've spoken out against them in the past. So, but again, it's just that they know that the maps are the key to everything. So I think it's such a big deal.
Well, in another case of can they do that, we'll talk about Megan Wolf and what's the update there as far as can they just remove her? I don't know, but we'll talk about that when we come back. There's also a little news about the domes. Maybe we'll talk more Packers. We got a lot to try to fit in with 8 more minutes with Dan Schaefer from the Recombobulation area when we come back. Stay tuned. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry.
I didn't realize that Tucker Carlson's like hemorrhaging viewers. And I heard yesterday someone was like, oh yeah, like no one's actually watching it anymore. I was like, oh, yeah, that doesn't really surprise me. It's kind of like Threads.
It was a thing for about 5
like a
minutes.
week, everyone was excited, and then they moved on.
Wow, it's like Scott Walker's presidential campaign. It's a big deal for about a week.
As Goes Wisconsin with host Kristen Bry. Weekdays 10 till noon on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app. As Goes Wisconsin with Kristen Bry.
He opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's joking how? Everybody's joking now.
Vivek.
Ramaswamy.
Cease and desist. Who would be worse? Mike Pence? I mean, Ron DeSantis trying to rap also would be wildly cringy.
Ron DeSantis trying to feel feelings is weird enough. I couldn't imagine him rapping.
As Goes Wisconsin with host Kristen Bry. Weekdays 10 till noon on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. A blend of clouds and sun this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 68. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Overcast skies tonight. Chance for scattered rain showers. Lows dip down to about 49. Chance for scattered showers tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 65. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's...
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. We got Jane Matnair back on the board and Dan Schaefer here to recombobulate as we typically do on Tuesdays from 10:30 to 11. So we spent the last segment talking about the ongoing, what will happen with the potential impeachment of Janet Protasiewicz. And there is another official that Republicans are trying to get rid of, despite the fact that under the same rules, they had no problem with their guy staying on because he wouldn't leave. But when it comes to the person they're trying to get rid of, they're just going to bulldoze right over that. So yesterday, the Wisconsin Senate Committee cleared the path for Megan Wolf, who is Wisconsin's chief elections administrator, to be fired, despite the fact that when Fred Pren didn't step down from the DNR board, they were perfectly fine not forcing a vote to have him step down. So how much have you followed this, Dan? And how much, I mean, this is another thing that's just going to end up in court, right? Because Josh Kaul, and basically legally, they're saying with how the Supreme Court ruled on Fred Pren, they can't do this.
Yeah, I haven't been following this as much as the impeachment issue, but I've certainly been paying attention to it. It just seems, but I think, we could talk about all the different mechanisms of what they're doing and the staying on the commission that they're appointed to and the hypocrisy of all of it. But I think so much of the, push to fire Megan Wolf as the head of the Wisconsin Elections Commission, it just goes back to the 2020 election conspiracies, right? It's just another, red meat move to the election deniers that make up such a huge part of the Republican Party's base. I know that there were a bunch of, kind of prominent election deniers that were, put on the stand in the Assembly Committee's hearing or the Senate Committee's hearing talking about this. It's just these people who are just completely off the deep end about the 2020 election. I think, Gableman was there making some other people look sane by comparison. Considering who else was on that committee. And I think, again, it doesn't matter, just the same, not unlike the impeachment push. It doesn't matter what the reason is for wanting to fire her. They're just going to, what the technical reason is for wanting to get rid of her, they're just going to make something up. They're just going to find something Just the same, a lot of people are saying like, oh, why are you covering impeachment when you has to be a corruption charge? Well, they're just going to invent one, just like they're doing with Megan Wolf. I mean, don't you think it's much the same type of behavior and approach that we're seeing from Wisconsin Republicans?
Totally. Well, it's also, but I still love the two things can be true. Don't forget to bank your vote. And don't forget to vote early this year, you Republicans. But yes, the 2020 election was totally corrupt, and because they voted early. And so it's like, okay, I guess the mental gymnastics of Simone Biles is what we're doing today.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and it's just they're going to keep trying to meddle with the election administration in the state, running up to local elections next year, primaries, everything with 2024. It's just a sign of it's just the latest of what's happening and a sign of what's to come. It's just like this ridiculous approach to governing, where somebody and I think Wolf has garnered the support of almost all of the other members of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. It's just the one guy who was literally one of the fake electors, Bob Spindell, who was voting, against her. Everybody else on that commission, even those appointed by Republicans, seem to be in favor of the way that she operates. So,
well, I want to. Jane, you said that we have a good text that we wanted to read.
We do. John from the Falls checking in at 844-967-2789. I think it would be helpful for Dan to remind everyone the powers that were limited by the Republicans when Tony Evers won his election.
Appointment powers is one of the main pieces of it, right? I mean, and that goes to all of the different issues that we've been talking about here, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so before we let you go, I want to make sure that we touch on, because you are tracking all of the stuff with the childcare counts compared to what the GOP bills have been. Now, I know last week there were hearings on those GOP-backed bills. It sounded like, at least the coverage I read from those hearings, that there was some consideration of childcare providers were like, yes, this might make things a little bit more flexible, but none of this is getting at the root cause. So what have you heard as far as opposition or support on those bills?
Yeah, it's interesting because we have, all this nonsense with impeachment talks and firing election administrations. We have some real things that we need to deal with in this state. Childcare being one of them. Obviously, the governor called this special session. That'll happen next week. But the Republicans are set to, kind of move some bills through committee last week, and could, as soon as Thursday, vote on those bills. And they have not exactly had a warm reception from those in the childcare community. One of the people who testified on those bills, Corrine Hendrickson, she is the co-founder of We Can, owner and operator of Little Explorers Family Childcare in New Glarus. She said, and I quote, "I am opposing all the assembly bills that purport to solve the childcare crisis. It is clear you are fabricating a reason in order to justify your lack of responsiveness in listening to your constituents, who overwhelmingly told you to vote yes for childcare counts." So these bills, providers have talked about, growing ratios of providers to children, loosening restrictions on various things, including age restrictions on how providers, making it easier for 16-year-olds to provide childcare. And this has been met with a really negative response from a lot of the people in the childcare community. I know one person that was quoted in a CBS 58 story talked about how this will make more people want to quit the profession. Yeah. So if the Republicans' goal is to try to get more people to want to quit the profession, please, by all means, go forward with this ridiculous package of bills and continue to ignore childcare counts. But I think, these bills are ridiculous. And I think part of what Wisconsin Republicans are doing in the news this week is just try to distract from how unpopular these are in advance of the governor's special session, which has, paid family leave, all these other workforce conditions attached to it. And, all indications that they're going to gavel in and gavel out once again. And so vote on these bills this Thursday. I think it'll be a really contentious final vote for those, especially with the special session that would be less than a week away.
Well, the special session is a week from tomorrow, so we will talk to you a week from today, preview that, and any votes that come down, any other changing craziness that happens in our state. I'm sure there will be something, but Dan Schaefer, founder, editor of the Recombobulation Area, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you as always, friend. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Radio keeps your community informed, entertained, and connected. It's what we're all about at the Civic Media Network of local radio stations.
We're having fun and moving fast to preserve hometown radio across Wisconsin. This includes a commitment to news. Now we want to invite you to join Civic Media's exclusive Facebook group, Wisconsin Breaking News. It's a place to share your community's news and chat with others from across the state about it.
Join the Facebook group Wisconsin Breaking News today. It's the perfect companion to your local Civic Media radio station.
Thank you for listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Now join us anytime by finding and following our Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram pages. You'll also find social media links for your favorite shows and hosts on our website, civicmedia.us.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266DR Waukesha, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by Indeed.com.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. Police say the convicted murderer who escaped from prison near Philadelphia almost 2 weeks ago is now armed and still very dangerous. Danilo Cavalcante was spotted early this morning in the suburbs. State Police Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens.
A short Hispanic male, no shirt, and wearing dark pants, entered his garage while the homeowner was in it. He grabbed a .22 rifle that was leaning in the corner of the garage. The homeowner drew a pistol and fired at Cavalcante as he fled with the rifle.
Who live nearby should lock up their homes and cars and stay indoors. Schools are closed for the day. Republicans in Washington are just back from summer recess and setting their sights on the Bidens.
Two sources confirmed to CBS News that Speaker McCarthy believes two separate committee investigations have uncovered enough information to proceed with an impeachment inquiry against the president and his son over various business dealings and other issues. The Speaker is expected to make that announcement Thursday morning in a closed-door meeting with House Republicans. Senate Republicans have said they believe their House colleagues lack the necessary evidence. Linda Kenyon, CBS News, Washington.
Google's antitrust trials just gotten underway in a Washington courtroom. Ensure.
There's no question about the power the tech industry has. But the thing the court will be trying to figure out is whether or not Google in particular has been acting anti-competitively.
The government claims Google has agreements with companies like Apple and Samsung to make its search engine the default option on web browsers and mobile phones. The CDC is expected to approve updated COVID vaccines today. CBS News medical contributor Dr. Celine Gounder.
This particular COVID vaccine, it's updated for the variants that have been circulating this year. It's not perfectly matched to the variants that are out there right now, but it's pretty close. And what we're seeing from antibody levels and testing, this should provide robust protection against the currently circulating
In a new
strain.
CBS News poll, 45% say they're worried about themselves or someone in their family getting COVID. That's down from 77% 3 years ago. Heavy rain flooded out parts of New England last night, closing schools in places like Leominster, Massachusetts. And there could be more to come. Weather Channel meteorologist Stephanie Abrams is tracking a Category 3 Hurricane Lee.
If Lee ends up farther west, we could have stronger winds, heavier rain, larger swells, and coastal flooding. If it slides more east, the impacts will be less intense, but we'll still see moderate to large waves and also rip currents.
The Dow is down 51 points, S&P off 20. This is CBS News.
When you think of hiring, think of Indeed. Their end-to-end hiring system helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all in the same place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Your home for local news, weather, and sports across the airwaves and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. Whitnall schools are thinking about a policy that would make it necessary to let parents know if their children want to change their gender. The proposed policy suggests that teachers should use a student's biological sex unless parents allow their child to transition. It would also make sure parents are told if a child wants to transition at school. Some people who don't like this idea argue that it could harm transgender students. The school board hasn't voted on it yet, and there's no clear date for when they will decide. The Milwaukee bar, which promised free drinks if Aaron Rodgers lost while playing for the Jets, was crowded last night. Rodgers was injured and left the game early, but the Jets won, so no free drinks were given out at Jack's American Pub. The future of the promotion remains uncertain pending Rodgers' availability. With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles.
The Cripes Cast with Charlie Behrens.
Today, I am talking to the owner of Funky Fresh Spring Rolls, my friend Truman McGee. From an environmentally friendly perspective, the fact that it's frozen means that it's not going to waste.
I'm a serial strawberry abuser. If you're a fruit and you're watching this, stay away from me, okay? Do not jump in my shopping cart because I will let you die.
Cripes Cast every Saturday and Sunday at noon across Civic Media and on the Civic Media app.
Saturdays and Sundays at 1. Don't miss Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, featuring legendary Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Football, life, and fun.
Earl, you've been driving a Yugo. They just gave you a brand new Ferrari with turbo boost. So enjoy it, brother.
Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger. Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Saturdays and Sundays at 1 on the Civic Media Network and on the Civic Media app.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
You are never far away from your favorite local radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app, and we invite you to get social with us by following our network's Twitter.
But we also proved that I'm not always nice.
But even when you're upset and even when you're ticked off, you still come from a place of compassion and love. Whereas I'm just old, bitter, and jaded.
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Hello, Wisconsin. Welcome to the 11 o'clock hour of As Goes Wisconsin. I am your host, Kristen Bry, and old, bitter, and jaded Jane Natnair is on the board.
I'm back, baby.
Back, baby. Back tan and refreshed, which we love to see. And so this hour, we are going to be talking to Colleen Hayes about the Willie Street Fair in the next segment. So if you are in or around Madison, that is certainly something you want to check out this weekend. It is Madison's longest running neighborhood gathering. And then at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be talking to Sandy Peters, who is a local Waukesha woman who she and her granddaughter have organized a family walk run for this weekend called Running for Water, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a fundraiser for Dig Deep, which is going to raise funds to help provide water for communities in America who do not have access to clean water. So really looking forward to talking to her about how they came across this issue, why they feel so passionate about it, how hard it is to organize a family walk run. But that's coming up at 11:30. But I wanted to come back for the top of this hour to what I think is probably the biggest, and it's not, I feel like it's not just a sports story. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has taken up so much of our collective. He's a celebrity, right? Like, he has dated celebrities. The drama that has unfolded around him is not unlike some of the drama of the other people that probably get outsized attention, like the Elon Musks of the world and stuff, that like they themselves are a headline no matter what, right? And, so much so that, and I can't remember, Jane, so did this happen while you were out of what was going on with Jack's American Pub?
Yeah, that I missed.
Okay, so you missed that.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with it now? Because I heard even over the newscast for the top of the hour news, they talked about it.
They had it. Yeah, I am up to speed now. What an unbelievable story.
So if you are not familiar, because for whatever reason, so we talked about it a little bit, but it basically made national headlines that there was a bar in Milwaukee called Jack's American Pub that promoted this had this promo that if you watched, you had to be there when the game started. And Aaron Rodgers had to start the game, but if the Jets lost, Jack's would pay your bar tab. So last night, obviously, is the first opportunity for this promo to happen. And I saw that ESPN was there, CBS 58 was there, like there was live coverage. The bar looked pretty packed. And so if you play out the drama of what happened, you think about all these people showed up. And because think about it, because even beyond that, the other part of this story is that at the very last minute yesterday, Charter finally figured out their deal with Disney. Because that's the other thing that happened while you were gone, Jane, is that Disney and Charter Communications had this huge negotiation where a week before last Thursday. Now I can't figure out the timeline. Was it last Thursday? I think it was anyways. Spectrum just stopped showing sports because they couldn't get ESPN so it was right before college football was basically starting. And so 15 million Spectrum subscribers couldn't get ESPN. So they couldn't get the US Open. They couldn't get certain college sports because Charter customers because Charter and Disney were having these negotiations, and basically like the question of what does this mean for cable packages and all of this was also going on simultaneously. So even as of Sunday night, Monday morning, Mike and I were like, well, how are we going to watch the game? Are we going to go to a bar? So I'm sure there was tons of people going to Jack's American Pub because they're like, well, if I can't watch the game at home, I might as well go watch it at Jack's. But Charter got it figured out literally hours before this game. So that's one piece of it. But regardless, people go to Jack's American Pub. And if you think about the drama of what happened in the game, so he starts the game, he being Aaron Rodgers, obviously goes down on the fourth snap. And then the Bills start to really pull away, right? For most of the game, the Bills are winning. But Josh Allen, who is the quarterback of the Bills, has a terrible game. Throws 4 interceptions.
Youch.
And so I'm thinking the Bills are going to go to sleep. So I'm like in bed already, but I'm hearing Mike just like howling at the TV because the Jets come back. The game because like I'm watching on social media, people being like, people are getting hammered at Jack's because everyone's just assuming that their bar tab is going to be paid for because Aaron Rodgers is out. The Bills are running away with it. Like the Jet season is over.
Drinks for everybody.
Drinks for everybody. So then lo and behold, the Jets come back. The game goes to overtime and the Jets still pull it out. So even though most of the game, everyone who's at Jack's is thinking, I'm not going to have to pay this tab. This is great. I'll be able to deal with my hangover tomorrow. Now they have to deal with their hangover and their bar tab because the Jets still won.
I should have ordered rail all night, and instead I did call.
Oh, well, that was actually funny you say that. That's actually part of the fine print was no top shelf.
Oh, seriously. Oh, that's hilarious.
But now, I mean, if he's out for the season, that promo, as much hype as it got, I mean, it has to be over, right? Because part of the deal was Aaron Rodgers had to start.
Right, he had to start. Well, yep. But I have to think that even if the Jets had won, and the bar had to pay all those tabs. They've gotten so much attention now.
Oh, yeah.
And so much free advertising. This has turned out to be a really good thing for them.
Totally. And you think not only that, it's free advertising, but even if had the promo continued, they don't cover your food tab, right? So if people come in and they order food, like you're still getting people into the bar, they're still buying other things.
Right.
And there's like, there's the chance that they win, they don't win. And so you're like last night, and this is the fun of gambling, right? It's like until the very end, the game is not over until it's over. But I can't imagine what that ride looked like. And it's funny because AJ Viapor, who is, like a political reporter for CBS 58, but every once in a while gets put on,
something lighter.
Something a little bit lighter, but he was reporting from there last night. And I don't think it doesn't matter because the audio doesn't show the disappointed faces, but he was there at the end of the game still reporting live. And when the Jets won, and you can just see people in the back, like holding the bridge of their nose, be like, I can't believe the Jets came back. I can't believe I have this $250 bar tab, and I'm going to be so hungover tomorrow.
How did this happen? And again, what we were talking in the first hour, you couldn't write something like this Rodgers injury taking him out for the rest of the season, and then you couldn't write a better ending for that bar than this.
Yeah.
With the Jets coming back to win at the last minute and just throwing everybody, it's just hilarious.
And so I wanted to get back to some of the comments that we got when we talked about this at the top of the first hour. First, the question was, do you feel guilty? Because I think some of us who had wished that there wasn't going to be a great season, that the Jets would not run away with it, that Aaron Rodgers wouldn't leave and immediately win a Super Bowl as soon as he left the Packers.
Right.
But do you feel a little guilty that this is now what happened to him on his fourth snap on his new team? And so we have one comment from Changerous on the YouTube live stream saying, Ree Rodgers, nothing is guaranteed. I don't wish on him. Perhaps he will coach up his young team to success, make it less about him. We shall see. We'll see. That's a good point as far as what role does he play now on the team as a sidelined veteran.
It will be interesting to see how his ego deals with all of this. It really will. Is that going to be enough for him to help out his remaining teammates and be a role model? I don't know.
And it's so interesting because I also think about so much. I know Mike Clemens touched on this yesterday, but he's not the only Packers reporter, pundit that I've spoken to about this that spent time in preseason at practices with the Packers of the different vibe that is going on with the team with Aaron Rodgers gone. That there is the large looming nature of Aaron Rodgers and playing to win Aaron Rodgers another Super Bowl versus playing as a cohesive team where there isn't one big, massive star, and how different the dynamics are and what that creates for a team. Because we haven't even gotten to talk about that, about how exciting the Sunday's game was and how the Bears still suck.
Yes.
But that's a good point as far as like, does Aaron Rodgers' ego let him still be a contributing factor to the team just because of how smart he is and how much experience he has, even though he's not on the field. But then we had a couple comments on, because one of the questions as we read in the first segment or the first hour was David Bakhtiari blaming this on the fake the AstroTurf and basically the what's on the field. And so we got Mike on the YouTube live stream saying MetLife Stadium has had 2 concerts this past weekend. I think the concern is how well a grass field would hold up to other events that the stadiums host. I don't know if that is one of the considerations, but then Scott McKellen also says NFL also tears up grass. I'm an FC Bayern Munich fan, and the NFL destroyed our grass in Germany last year. Unsure if it's sustainable to change all to grass. So I guess it's because of the way the game is played and how different that is from soccer.
That could be.
So interesting as far as this. Yeah, go ahead, Jane.
Yeah, we got a couple of texts. Again, you can always text 844-967-2789 from the 920. He goes out on snap number 4. Coincidence? I wonder. And also from the 262, Rodgers' first season with the Jets moved the needle as much as Scott Walker's presidential run.
Oh, gosh. We got some mean people this morning that are not that sympathetic to Roger.
And then there's John from the Falls. Good morning, ladies. I'm really struggling with this. I've always had the mindset I want to lead with love and kindness, but I'm finding it more and more difficult since 2016. While I don't wish injury on anyone, there's apparently a part of me that really believes that you get what you give. Karma. That being said, I wish for healing and success for him with his new team. So John's bringing it home with kindness.
Both things can be true. You can want to be a good person, but you can also be like, well, you were getting a little too big for your britches. All right. When we come back, we will talk to Colleen Hayes about the Willie Street Fair. So join us after the break. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
From the kennel to the coop, whatever the season, Fleet Farm has everything to keep your animals happy and healthy. From training your pup to sit season, to mastering those retrieval skills season. From clipping your horse for competition season, to keeping the backyard birds well-fed season. And of course, loving your pets like family season. There's a reason people say, if Fleet Farm doesn't have it, you don't need it. Because we have it all. Fleet Farm, built for real life.
Uh-oh, did a rock hit your windshield from that semi? Don't worry, Autoglass Now offers fast, reliable, and convenient service. For a limited time only, Autoglass Now is offering 50% off windshield replacement. Call your local Autoglass Now today for full details.
Why are interscholastic sports called the last classroom of the day? Because they teach students important life lessons like teamwork, accountability, and perseverance. School sports are so much more than a game. They're about developing the whole person. That's why they're an essential part of every student's education.
Encourage your student to participate in the last classroom of the day. Interscholastic sports in Wisconsin. This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Up North News Radio with Pat Kreitlow, Wisconsin's home for daily conversations about the state's latest headlines and stories. Weekday mornings from 6 till 8 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. A blend of clouds and sun this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 68. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Overcast skies tonight. Chance for scattered rain showers. Lows dip down to about 49. Chance for scattered showers tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 65. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently,
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. And this weekend, Madison's longest running neighborhood gathering is back. It's the very hip Willie Street neighborhood is having their Willie Street Fair, when there's going to be live entertainment, over 100 vendors, and overall very good vibes. And here to tell us more about it she is on the phone, Colleen Hayes, who is the Wilmar Neighborhood Center board member. How you doing, Colleen?
Hey, Kristen. Good. I'm doing great. How are you?
We're great. You know, we're just, we're counting down the days till I have a baby. We're happy that Jane's back from Europe, and we're really excited to talk to you.
Excellent. Excellent.
So I guess
Right.
when we say, I mean, this would have to be a very busy week for you because it's considering the size and the fun nature of the event. But I guess when we say that this is the longest running neighborhood gathering, how long? What year is this? How long has this festival been going on?
Well, let's see, 1977. So let me do some quick math here. It's been about 50 some odd years. I don't want to get like Tony Castaneda on you,
1977 is good enough. We can put some kind of framework of whatever context that creates for us in our brain. That is a long time. And so I guess
a long time.
How would you describe, because I grew up in Madison. I grew up on kind of the near west side. I went to Madison West, but certainly every time now I come from Milwaukee and I drive in through the east side, if I were to ever move back to Madison, I have to say I would probably be an east side girl. And Yep. And so how would you describe the Willie Street neighborhood to someone who doesn't know what it is?
Good question. That's great. Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's obviously changed. I think there'd be a lot of people that would frown upon some of the gentrification of Willie Street neighborhood. However, I do think it has retained. It's a very eclectic neighborhood. And the Willie Street Fair just personifies that 100%. When you show up, especially on Sunday morning at 11 a.m., we have our Willie Street Fair Parade, which is unlike any other parade you've ever been to. And when you show up there, you just see just a wide variety of people who are, represent all that is Willie Street. So like you mentioned, it's a hip neighborhood in some people's mind, but it's, there's a lot of teachers that live in the neighborhood, a lot of, neighborhood volunteers, people who just really appreciate the neighborhood and, have been working to make it better their whole life of living there. So,
Colleen, do people make their own floats for the parade?
That's a good question. They do make their own floats. A lot of it is mostly just people there's lots of stilt walkers, bicyclists, lots of people just walking, handing out candy. But we do have a variety of floats. One of my favorites is Lauer Realty, which is a neighborhood realtor. They've been known to show up with floats the last couple of years. They hire a drag queen and they just really go all out. So they're kind of a fun float. You never know who's going to show up, though. We've got a couple different marching bands that show up every year. Forward Marching Band is there. The Amphibians drummers show up. There's lots of climate action folks that'll be there with these large, just huge, this large fish. It was like a paper mache fish from last year was there. Last year we had a large uterus. Can you say uterus on radio?
You can say that is a scientific, is an anatomy word.
Yeah.
So yes, you can absolutely say uterus.
Right.
We say it a lot.
Yeah. Right. Good. Okay. So there was a large uterus. Local artist Wendy Schneider had a uterus that she walked around wearing this costume that she made with the help of some friends. So you just never know what's going to show up at the Willie Street Fair parade, specifically. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so is there anything new this year for people who have typically gone in the past? Like what can people expect? I mean, we obviously just heard a little bit about the parade, but there's tons of musical artists. I think there's 5 different stages, but what kind of paint the scene for people?
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited because this year we're sort of back to where we were pre-pandemic. Of course, lots of neighborhood festivals, especially on the east side, we had to cancel some of our festivals. Most of our festivals that year of 2020. And then they've been limping back to full strength. And the Willie Street Fair used to be, longer. We had to reduce it to about 2 blocks, but now it's 2 days, full of 4 stages each day. And like you were mentioning, hundreds of vendors. There's food vendors, artists. You could pretty much get all of your holiday shopping completed this weekend if you wanted to, and buy local and support local artists. So that's the thing I'm most excited about is we're going to be back to full strength. And I know our local community radio station, WORT, is having their stage is back at full strength on Sunday. So they're really excited about that. And they usually bring in some really kind of newer, hip, kind of more punk artists. And so that'll be interesting to see, to learn, to see what they have in store.
Well, that sounds awesome. I am very excited that it is back and back at full force. But the 2023 Willie Street Fair is this weekend, September 16th and 17th on the 800, 900, and 1000 block of Willie Street on Madison's Isthmus. You can get more information at williestreetfair.org. Colleen Hayes, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope it goes off without a hitch, and I hope that there's more uteruses there.
I hope and we have a full kids stage. That's what I organize and book, the kids stage. So that's going to be up your alley now, Kristen.
I know. Next year we'll bring baby Kristen there. All right. Thanks, Carlene. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Sandy Peters will be here to talk about Run for Water. Stay tuned. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Shaw, home of Les Paul, our awesome farmers market, and The Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM, WAUK.
CBS News special report. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has just asked for a formal impeachment inquiry into President Biden in light of investigations into his son Hunter.
This logical next step will give our committees the full power to gather all the facts and answers for the American public. That's exactly what we want to know, the answers. I believe the president would want to answer these questions and allegations as well.
He says the effort will be led by Congressmen James Comer, Jim Jordan, and Jason Smith, but they may come up short on Republican support. Correspondent Nicole Killian is in Washington.
Over in the Senate, the bottom line is a lot of Republicans say there just is no there there. They haven't seen evidence that would merit any kind of inquiry.
McCarthy says the facts should concern all Americans, no matter their party affiliation. Again, the House Speaker asking for a formal impeachment inquiry into President Biden. CBS News special report. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
Thanks for listening to your local Civic Media radio station. Learn more on our website, civicmedia.us.
With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. Milwaukee County is moving towards becoming a sanctuary for trans and non-binary individuals. A county committee has endorsed a plan that would have the entire county board officially oppose any potential state laws aimed at restricting gender-affirming care through bans, fines, or penalties. The resolution doesn't distinguish between gender-affirming care for adults or children, and it broadly opposes limitations on gender-affirming surgeries. The Great Lake is a little choppy today. A beach hazard statement is in effect until tonight for Lake Michigan beaches in Milwaukee, Racine, and Kenosha counties. The advisory warns of life-threatening waves from 3 to 5 feet and dangerous currents that could pose risks for any swimmers due to the combination of high waves and onshore winds. With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles.
Ready to ride?
Just let me get my flip-flops on.
Whoa, Mom and Dad are going for a ride without their protective gear.
Quick, grab the checklist. I'll grab the gear.
Just where do you two think you're going without your safety gear?
Yeah, you know how we feel about riding without your gear.
Well, it's so nice out.
And we're only going for a short ride.
Not before you put all this gear on, you're not.
But,
riding pants?
Okay.
Check.
Motorcycle boots?
Bye-bye, flip-flops.
Check.
Armored jackets?
Nice.
Check.
Riding gloves?
2 pairs.
Check.
Last but not least, full face helmets.
Check.
Now you're ready to ride.
And you look cool.
All the gear, all the time. Zero in Wisconsin. Together, we can save lives. Learn more at zeroinwisconsin.gov.
Be home on time for dinner.
Sponsored by the Wisconsin Department of Transportation.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
Please be done.
over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You are listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media?
There. And right here in Waukesha this weekend, there is a family walk run set for 10 a.m. So it's going to be this Saturday at Frame Park. And we are going to be talking to Sandy Peters, who's on the phone with us right now to talk more about the event, what the funds are going to go to, and how she started it. So how are you doing, Sandy?
Thank you. I'm great. Thank you for having me on the show, Kristen and Jane. I know As Goes Wisconsin is all about Wisconsin, but we are extending a thread all the way out to the Navajo Nation. And this thread really started here in Wisconsin with the destination, that pub on Main Street, because we weren't sure how this was going to pan out with getting sponsors and stuff. And they just opened up their arms and said, yes, we will sponsor. And we started getting $1,000 sponsorships in. And this has become a reality, because I need to be honest with you. I thought I was going to make a fool of myself. I thought this was going to be embarrassment. I didn't know how to start a fundraiser. But it all started with a news segment I was watching on August 3rd in 2020. And I just poured myself a glass of cold water and I sat down to watch the news. And it was a hot August day. And they were talking about the explosion of COVID on the Navajo Nation. And as they were going on, they were explaining that the Navajo people barely have enough water to drink. They have about approximately 1 liter per day per family member. That's not enough to shower and frequently wash your hands, as the CDC recommendations were for COVID at the time. So I sat watching this going, for the first time, opening my eyes, my goodness, these people have no running water right here in America. So they talked about Dig Deep, and our fundraiser is for Dig Deep, which is a nonprofit right to water project, which is based in LA. So I started looking into Dig Deep a little bit more and was impressed with how that started. He was doing a scholarship paper for Loyola, and he was talking about people's rights, and he picked water. He had to do a paper on a human right. So he picked water, and his professor gave it back to him and said, no, water is not a human right. And he was, shocked about that, as we were. And then he started in Southern Sudan and Cameroon, and he was putting wells in there. And one of his supporters said, I will give you $50, but if you come back and do it in the Navajo Nation. And he had the same reaction I had, like, wait, what? Here in the United States? Currently there are 2.2 million people. Yeah, 2.2 million people living in the United States without access to clean running water. And the Navajo Nation had treaties that explicitly or implicitly said that they had rights to water. But in June of this year, the Supreme Court shut it down, saying, yes, you do have rights to water from the San Juan River, but we don't have to help you get the water. So, it's a constant struggle for them. It takes a lot of money to provide one family with clean running water. It takes between $4,500 and $5,500 because there is no access to pipes. They have to dig a big hole, put a big tank in a 1,200 gallon tank, and then pipe water from that to their house. Now, these are temporary moves because they are working on a coalition to have water finally piped in there some way, somehow. So it's an ongoing effort. And because of the incredible sponsors we've had from Waukesha, we've already raised $13,000 to send to them after the run.
That's really impressive, Sandy. That's really impressive, because this is the first one, right? This is the first run for water.
Yes. My granddaughter and I were talking about it. She's an old soul, and we were talking about it, and I said, I really want to do this because I'm a retired teacher. And at the end of the year, I would read a book called A Long Walk to Water, and it was about Southern Sudan and the Lost Boys. And I just wanted to plant little activist seeds and just making children aware, because this has to continue. We can't just turn a blind eye to this like we have done for over 100 years now. And my granddaughter and I would talk about it, and I'm like, maybe we could do this. So it was with partnerships with Plowshare and the Community of the Living Spirit, a little church here in Waukesha, that they actually had connections of how to get moving on this. So if it wouldn't have been for them, and if it wouldn't have been for those first huge donations coming in, I think I would have just said, like, well, that was an attempt, but it's turned out to be a success, and we are going to do it next year. So yeah, in the registration, we kept the fee very low because we want this to be an awareness for families. So it's a family walk, run, bring your buggies, strollers, whatever. And it's $15 per person or $25 for a family of 5. And we meet at the shelter at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, and going around twice is a 3.5K run. So we're excited about it. It's really happening. It was a dream, and it's really happening because of Waukesha.
Totally. And we're talking to Sandy Peters, who is the founder organizer behind Running for Water, which is a walk run this set for 10 a.m. this Saturday at Frame Park. And this is such a great story because it's such, you just saw something on TV that was a problem, and you're like, I want to help. How do I help? And now it's coming to fruition, right? And I think it's such a powerful story as far as the ability to just do something, right? And it doesn't, and you don't know where it's going to lead to or how it can grow, but this is such an inspiring series of events. And so I guess, did you always think it would be a run walk, or was it just kind of a fundraiser at first? And then how did you end up deciding that this was the best way to do the fundraiser?
Well, it started with the Plowshare and the Waukesha branch of NAACP had a combined book study at Martha Merrill's. And it was on what white people can do next. And it was like, yeah, we need a coalition of people. And I was always wanted to start something with this funding, the Navajo Nation. And then, it started from there, but I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know what to do. And then I had a dream. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was like running for water, but the 4 was real small, like running water. And I thought, okay, a run, a fundraiser, walk, run, that would work. And it kind of started from a dream, and then it just snowballed from there. And talking to people, and then Michelle Mader from Plowshare, she has done so many things with fundraising events. Bonnie Burke from Community of the Living Spirit has done so many things, because the Plowshare was started from a member of the Community of the Living Spirit. The food pantry was, the women's center was. So I met some people that knew how to get things done. And when I didn't know where to go, it was just this like imaginary thing of them holding a sign going, okay, go this way. So it was a dream, but it was important people in Waukesha that really got this going and seeing it through. And then making the contact with Dig Deep. Oh my gosh, they have been so supportive. I've been in contact with Alexis Martin and Chloe Simpson out there, and they just keep, they gave us t-shirts, they're encouraging us. It's just wonderful. And I know that they're doing such remarkable things. And George McGraw, who started Dig Deep, is now part of the Water Commission in LA too. I mean, this is big. They are doing moving and shaking things. It's all nonprofit. 100% goes to funding families with water.
Well, go ahead, Jane.
And it must have, Sandy, when you got this rolling and you started getting out into the community and talking to people must have been shocked, because I know I was, and I think Kristen was too, when you said there are over 2 million people in this country that do not have access to water coming out of a tap. And that's just not something that we think about.
It's not. And people are shocked. And I sat there for one Friday Night Live, and people would come up and they said, I had no idea. And I said, that's a problem. So, initially I just wanted to get the word out there. I had no idea we would be able to bring in $13,000. So the word is getting out there. And thank you two so much for having me on here to get the word out even more. Yeah, there's 2.2 million people in the United States. 780 million worldwide, but 2.2 in our country. That's not right.
Well, it's also because when I was looking at Dig Deep website, because obviously this is a project that's going to go for the Navajo Nation, but it's also it looks like the other part of the country that they serve is Appalachia, which and like the parts of that part of the mountains and stuff where people, and I remember that's been an issue there for a long time, because I remember, well, you know how stories sometimes just kind of stick with you, is babies in Appalachia who have dew mouth or like mountain dew mouth because they have easier access to soda than they do to clean water.
Yeah.
Which has always
Yes.
stuck with me as far as
the
what it
Southern
does to their
Climate.
teeth and everything. Yeah. And so it's also, I think, so timely as far as as you talked about, this is a community of Waukesha coming together. It's the different groups that are helping you who got this off the ground, the donations that have already come in. And it's so timely, I think, because 4 days ago, Waukesha celebrated that the completion of its Lake Michigan water pipeline, and that, the water that is going to be provided to the city of Waukesha has now changed. And that was such a huge effort, and it's taken so long. And it's kind of like a good time to think about not taking water for granted.
Absolutely. And our timing we had no idea of that was going to be around September. But yes, we do take water for granted. And that was when I was watching that news broadcast that night, and I looked at my glass of water with the condensation running down. And I was just like, I just got up and went into the kitchen and got a cold glass of water. They have to drive. Now, Dig Deep has helped to reduce the miles, but they were driving like 52 miles round trip to fill jugs with water. And then if it was, because they don't have paved roads on the Navajo Nation, many of them aren't paved, if it was rainy, it would take them up to 2 hours to go get water. When I can walk into my kitchen, and that's just not right. Water should be a human right. It should not be a luxury for a few people.
Well, and I find the ruling interesting that the court made that, yes, you can have access to the water, but we're not going to help you get it. Good luck.
Right. I know. And you know what? They had this in their treaty, I think, of 1878. And then they had the Winter Doctrine, which said, yes, you do have a right to this water. And they've been fighting this since the 50s. They've been fighting this, trying to get them to help them bring the pipelines in. Biden's infrastructure is helping that. But these houses are so remote that if they get a pipeline in, they don't know that they can connect them. So that's what I'm so impressed with Dig Deep. They're working on, closing that water gap worldwide, but first here in America, closing that water gap, figuring out ways to do it. And they're, now they're part of a government agency too. So it's just all impressive what they're doing.
And so just coming back to the event, so we can make sure everyone has all the information that they would need. It's this weekend. Registration is still open.
Oh, yes, you can register there. It's $15 per person, $25 for a family of 5. We're in the shelter, which is right by the playground. And
in Frame Park,
we're
right?
Going to take registrations. Yes, in Frame Park. Yes, because this has been recorded. There's been retired videographers, and they've been recording my initial kickoff meeting at the library, and then they recorded one of our committee meetings. And they're going to show up that day. So we've gotten a lot of money, and we just need some bodies out there too. So it'd be wonderful to have anybody show up at the last minute. We don't care. Come and sign up. We've got about 30, 40 people registered, but we can always use more. And again, you can register there. The forms will be there. Just a cash or check, $15, and we'd love to have you join us.
And the forecast looks great. Should be a beautiful day.
That's very exciting. Is there anywhere online people can get more information? I can send them in our show notes as far as getting more, either registering it beforehand or at least bookmarking it.
Yes, there is a QR code. We'll take you to the registration papers, but the information is, it's Community Living Spirit. There's no of in it, so it's just communitylivingspirit.com/running4water/
Right, perfect. I will get that.
Water just hyphens between me.
Perfect. I will get that, and I'll put it in our show notes for today. Sandy, this has been so lovely. It's such an inspiring story, and thank you so much for putting your heart and soul into this.
Well, thank you for letting me share it so more people are aware. I really appreciate it, Kristen and Jane. It means the world to me. Thank you.
All right. Well, good luck this weekend. Can't wait to hear how it goes. And can't wait to see how much money you guys raise. We got to take a break, but when we come back, we will close out today's show. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
More than 80 million Americans depend on AM radio each month for news, weather, and emergency information. A new bill in Congress would make sure AM radio remains in cars, because when cell and internet services are down, this free service could be your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to support the AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
If I could be you.
And you could be me for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. A blend of clouds and sun this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 68. Winds out of the north, 8 to 15 miles an hour. Chance for scattered rain showers tonight. Lows level off around 49. Overcast skies. Chance for scattered rain showers again tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 65. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist.
Everybody's got a thing, but some don't know how to handle it. Always reaching out in vain, just taking the things not worth having. But don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing, mama, 'cause I'll be standing on the side.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Matnair. And this Tuesday is we're almost over as our first show back together.
Yes, after a couple of weeks.
After a couple of weeks. So we only got a couple of weeks left. Not even. We got 8 shows after today. And
but you are going to be checking in.
I am.
Are you not?
Checking in, yes.
So we can get little LJ updates, little Jane, of course, and see how the baby's doing and see how you're doing and how the new parents are doing. Are you getting excited?
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I bet.
I had, so one of the reasons I was out of town is we had a baby shower this weekend and I was trying to get all my stuff back and I was up in Rapids and I have hit that stage of, I think they call it nesting, where I know that I still have a lot of responsibilities. I have to do this show every day. I am trying to make some TikToks for, again, defendjustice.com. I'm going to do that as soon as we're done for today's show of trying to get some information out because the news has not stopped. But, still lots of things to get done before this baby gets here. And all I really want to do is clean my house.
Really?
Yeah, like yesterday we got home and all I wanted to do was wash her little clothes and put them, find the spot for them and organize what needs to go where and the final touches, which I know is futile because the amount of parents that I've talked to who they set up their nursery, they have everything, they think it's going to be one way, and then they're like, we totally didn't use this. We never even put her in her room and all of the things that changed. And I think that's been the most interesting thing about this experience so far. And I think it has something to do with being I mean, relatively older as far as being 37, having my first kid, and having so many friends who have had kids,
Sure.
is that I think I have so much, my attachment to anything going a certain way is not really existent. Like, the birth has to be a certain way, breastfeeding has to be a certain way, sleeping in a bassinet versus this, like, because I've gotten so many stories from so many people of the improvisation that has to happen, that like there is kind of this acceptance of, well, it's going to happen the way it's going to happen, and we're just
Pretty
gonna
much.
roll with it. There's only so much planning you can do, and I think that's why I've been able to stay fairly calm and not be that anxiety ridden throughout this. But I am very, very excited. I'm going to actually get to go see her today, and so I'm going to do it. We have a growth scan today, so I get to see how big because you'll be surprised, Jane, after we haven't seen each other for 3 weeks. I'm
I
definitely
know.
bigger than I was when you left.
Well, you're tall and thin. So when you finally popped, and I think it was about 3.5 months in, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, there's a little belly.
Yeah.
And then
now
there's a big belly.
there's
I'm
a beach
sure.
ball now. And she's
gonna
we'll
be
see how big she is.
she's gonna be tall.
She is going to be tall. I
Yeah.
would have said, between having Mike 6'3", I'm 5'10", my dad's 6'8", my grandma's 6 foot. Like there's probably a chance that she's going to be a string bean. But yes, so we are very excited. We were very excited I'm excited to plan with you all the stuff that you guys are going to be doing while I'm away. Very excited for Carol Kane to be joining the show on Fridays.
On Fridays, I'm going to have Todd Alba will be joining me on Mondays. Dominic Salvia from Devil's Advocates is here on Tuesdays. Greg Bach, of course, for Greg Bach Wednesdays. And then Thursday, we're going to play it by ear. And then Fridays, we'll do Fridays with Jane and Carol, which I think should be a lot of fun.
It should be so much fun. But we're also going to have some of our recurring guests. Like
Absolutely.
you're still going to be doing public service announcement with Dr. Wireley on Thursdays.
Dr. Mike is coming back.
Dr. Mike, if you were unfamiliar with the segment that we did last year, my best friend, who is both a life coach and psychologist, and also a fantasy football savant. He is good. I will not be here, but he is coming back to talk to Jane once a week to talk about life stuff, answer your questions, and
relationships, love,
career. So we'll have a lot of the staples still in place as far as the different segments that we have. Matt Miller will come on once a month. We'll have sports updates.
Yep.
What do you think is going to be different? What do you think so far is going to be the biggest difference between me in the big chair versus you in the big chair?
Well, again, I just think you have an ability to absorb some really complex things like reports from the Wisconsin Policy Forum. And I love talking to those people, but that's only because they know they have to break it down into shorthand for me, because otherwise I'm not going to get it. So I think I just want to maintain the quality level, the intelligence level that you have always brought to it. So that's what I'm shooting for. That's what I'm shooting for.
You will, and you absolutely will. And I have no doubt about that. But yeah, so we'll have lots of planning sessions. We still have 8 shows, but I want to send another reminder, and probably this will be a daily reminder, but go check out defendjustice.com to look up your reps, to get their contact information, to let them know that you care about this impeachment hearing and you do not want them to impeach Janet Protasiewicz. Like I said, I'm going to be sharing more information about that across social media. But that is something that we need to keep harping on, because this is unreal that they're trying to even get away with that.
Well, as Dan Schaefer said, is it unreal? I mean, they've been doing these power grabs now for a decade. So is it surprising? Maybe not so much. Is it disappointing? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And we can do something about it. So that's why you need to go to that website.
And we can absolutely do something about it. Just like Sandy's doing something about water in the Navajo Nation.
And well done, Waukesha.
Well done, Waukesha. Well done, Sandy and Ava, her granddaughter. Like, that is such a cool story, as far as it started with me learning about something and not wanting to just say, oh, well, that's sad.
Yeah.
and then go on with my day. That she actually got up and did something about it is so cool. Well, that'll about do it for us today. But tomorrow, Alan Borsick's going to be back. He wrote an optimistic story as far as some of the Milwaukee schools that are shining brightly ahead of the school year, even though we're in week 2 of the school year. Greg Bach will be back tomorrow. He'll co-host with me. I think we're going to do, I'm trying to think of a fun segment that we can do tomorrow. I think we're either going to rank the worst TV decisions in history, or Settlers of Catan actually came out with a cookbook. And so the board game Settlers of Catan, are you not familiar?
I am not.
All right. Well, we'll maybe think about if other board games had a cookbook, what would that look like?
Oh,
so
I like
we'll
it.
have some fun tomorrow. But thank you for listening. Thank you for calling. Thank you to Sandy. Thank you to Colleen. Thank you to Dan Schaefer for being guest today. And we'll come back tomorrow, 10 a.m. This has been As Goes Wisconsin.
Don't you worry.